Libby's grandmother was diagnosed with polio at 3 years old during the October of 1947. She is the reason why we are doing this project. Did you know she considers herself one of the lucky ones for only having the virus effects in her right arm? Now she has some different symptoms as a result, but it does not stop her.
Polio is a virus that infects one cell before multiplying and jumping to other cells. This virus has few symptoms, but most are not very different from having a fever or cold. Some symptoms are fatigue, headache, vomiting, an actual fever, stiffness of neck, pain in the limbs, and possibly paralysis for life.
So, how old were you when you got polio?
I was 3.5.
3.5. Did any of your siblings get polio?
No, not then. A lot of years later, when they came out with the shots, my brother had all the symptoms. He didn't have any of the paralysis. They don't know if it was because of the shots or not, or what happened. That's it.
And
Polio was first classified in the late 1700s. The first polio outbreak began in 1894. The first outbreak occurred in Vermont with 132 cases found. Scientists identified the virus as polio after testing the virus on a monkey. Over the next few years, polio began to spread at a rapid rate and continuing to grow.
Depending on how polio affects you is how polio will affect your life. If you have been lucky enough to not been paralyzed, then your life won't be much different. You may have polio, but you can live where nothing is different. Whereas if you have a small area that's paralyzed or completely paralyzed, your life will most definitely be different.
There is one way to avoid polio, and is to get the vaccine as a child and later in life if needed. Polio has two different types of vaccines, oral and shots. Polio is an irreversible disease that will most likely not affect you if you get the vaccine. The vaccine can save your life because if you get polio and it affects your lungs, you will either need an iron lung or another device or you will die.
There is no cure for polio, even to this day. The only way to stop it is to get the vaccine. Although there is no cure for polio, you can stop being contagious after around 2 or so months at most. As long as you get your vaccine, you will have no need and no worry about polio.
did you get any surgeries to help with all of the different
I had 5 surgeries. I had my right hand was limp, and it didn't lift up. It just flopped. So they wanted to get me to be able to do this. So they did one surgery where they can't transplant a tendon, but they can stretch it, and they cut here, and they stretched it and brought it around to the thumb, but it broke, so that one didn't work. Then they did something I never even understood what they did they shut here on a second operation, trying to do something with my wrist. Like I said, it was floppy. The best thing they ever did was they put a bone block. They put a piece of bone from my hip, not a whole piece of bone, they just shave and put it in there, and then when you look at an x-ray now, it's like a white square in there, and it keeps it from moving at all, which is what I needed. And then after that, I still had a thumb that hung way over here. So they took shavings from my leg, and they propped it up, and see, it won't move back here. It was supposed to be up higher, but the cast was I swelled up so much that they kept cutting the cast, so it slipped a little bit, but it was still better that way than having it laying back over here doing nothing.